Hello, I'm Bert Oliver, and welcome to Bowie News and Views with my co-producer, co-host, and co-anchor, John Rouse.
Chauffeur.
Welcome.
That's chauffeur. Thank you, Bert.
Well, it's about time you agreed to be my chauffeur. I've been chauffeuring you a lot.
Yeah, well.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, John, you know, one of the things that we had hoped to do in our programming is avoid some issues maybe that were negative. However, since we've got the strength of your memory, your ability, and as a editor, former editor, journalism seemed to be a good idea to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, how would you approach that subject? Would we call it a crossroads of journalism now?
I would
to
say
talk
it's
about?
not journalism per se. I think it's the decline of the printed newspapers specifically. The internet has come forth and really eaten into the print journalism monopoly virtually. I was just pointing out to you earlier, this is the paper I came down here from Connecticut. I was city editor of this paper up in Connecticut, and I came down here to take over the Blade News. This paper was the virtual monopoly in the community, hefty circulation. They used to have an afternoon and an evening edition. I mean, a morning and an afternoon edition. And they changed that many, many years ago. And now it's on its last legs, apparently. They've outsourced the printing. They've closed the production department, which is precisely what's happening to Capital Gazette newspapers, which publishes the Bowie Blade News.
Well, you know, John, there's so much to follow in your comments because you've been around 35 years.
Actually, 40 in the business.
40?
More than 40.
You were a child when you started.
I was a child, yes.
So that experience we need to review. But one thing I have a question about, and when I say what's happened to newspaper, and people say it's internet.
Yeah.
But I've got to make a comment because the internet might be considered like television news, breaking news. But to get in-depth stories and to get real behind the scene of the story, where can you go but a newspaper?
Well, unfortunately, Bert, what's happening on the internet has a culture of everything is free. And they don't like to veer from that. The New York Times, the best newspaper in this country, I even think you as a Republican would agree with that.
Yeah, they and the Boston Tribune is going to
Boston
drain
Globe.
together.
Well, the Boston Globe is owned by the New York Times.
Not Tribune. They're
Now,
together.
they initially started charging for content online. And it went nowhere. So they're back to free. And what the internet is doing is making its money off of advertising. And people are going on there. Why are you going to pay $195 a year to get the New York Times delivered to your front lawn if you can go on and read exactly the same stuff online?
I understand.
And get it for absolutely nothing? That's what's happening. Then the other controversy is aggregating. If you go on Google News, all that news you're reading has been, I'm going to say, stolen, literally, from a newspaper. You know, they say, well, we got it from this and we got it from that. They didn't ask permission of those newspapers to get that news. They just use it. And the newspapers are hurting because of that. It's the financial situation of paid newspapers is bad, very, very bad. And plus, I bet if we asked our floor manager over there if he reads a daily newspaper, he'll say no. He gets it on the internet, see?
Yeah. Well, see,
And
Jim's
younger people are not reading newspapers anymore. It's old fogies like us that still cling to the printed word. It's very, very bad. It's
well,
very,
you're
very
right.
bad.
You're absolutely right. You can, I can see the difference physically on every morning. You ride down the street and you don't find 3 out of 10 homes that have a newspaper in the driveway now. And just close to a year or two ago, John, there was one in every driveway.
Oh, absolutely. The
I don't know
Post or the
what's brand.
Times or the Washington Times or something. Or even the Baltimore Sun used to deliver here.
Sure. So you're absolutely right.
It's
now,
too bad.
And there's more to how it came to be, probably, and only you probably could describe that better than anyone, and you did with the internet and the attention resident is charged, and of course the information they are getting from some source other than them actually
No, they're not.
shaking the bushes.
They're literally stealing it. Yeah.
And a lot of our, and we're talking about our big time guys, Washington Post, you're talking about the New York Times. I don't cry over some of the editorials they have, as you identified, thank you. But the editorial area and I might be jumping ahead on some of your thinking, but has the editorial pages caused some of these problems?
No, I don't buy that at all. What's really, this recession, of course, has been the final crunch because a substantial amount of advertising, for us when I was editor of the Bowie Blade News, automobiles. Oh, they're going out of business, for heaven's sakes. Classified advertising, it's gone on a Craigslist on the internet. It's on the internet. It's free.
Yeah, that's right.
So classified advertising has gone out. Real estate. I think that is self-explanatory.
Oh, yeah.
And it's you know, we're in a really odd position here because, as you know, you've lived here longer than I by a few years, I think.
Couple.
But this community has always had a Bowie-based newspaper, a newspaper that was located right here in this community. The editor, the reporters all lived in this community. Well, at the end of this month, that's going to be a thing of the past. The Bowie Blade News is going into Annapolis with the Capital Gazette newspapers, and there will be no presence in this city. I've always felt that a community newspaper especially, like the Bowie Blade News, the editor and the reporters should be from that community. Because if they're not, and I believe this, then you can't cover the city the way it should be covered because you don't really know it that well. The Bowie Star, of course, is not located here. They never have been. But the Bowie Blade News has been for decades and decades. And I think that's pretty tragic for the city.
Sure.
Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And I never hesitated when I used to travel. Every town I would hit for an overnight stay or whatever, I'd pick up the local newspaper.
Well, it's fun. It's fun to look at the local paper.
And now that's a long time ago. And to see all of that happen, change, and particularly right here in Bowie, because several generations, they look forward every Thursday at the time, and now Friday, to get the Bowie Blade News. Because, number one, they read about their sports team locally, that they would have to get a magnifying glass to find in another paper.
If it even makes it.
If it made it. And of course, even local, what I like about some of these papers, you can then see people where they're getting married. You mean they have an announcement in the paper? A lot of that has changed. They just forgot about it. But it gives you a sense of the community.
It does.
With the sports coverage, and of course with the community news, if a tree hit a car, or if a car hit a tree, and the tree fell on the car.
If the tree hit the car, that would be a front page story.
Usually that was a picture in the Bowie Blade News, and you couldn't find the Washington Post or the Capital. So those sort of things, hopefully nobody was hurt in that explanation. We did simply have that. Nobody was hurt, but the tree did eventually, while the person was going to get a wrecker to haul them out of there, fell on the car. That's been in the years past. But John, what if we're going downhill on this? What's going to happen to all of the people who gather the news?
A lot of them right now are at unemployment. What our company did, of course, was offered a buyout, which I liked it to take because I was getting to a certain age. I took it. They've had buyouts in almost all major newspapers in the country. Something that people don't realize because it doesn't get national coverage. You know, when the Seattle paper goes down, the San Francisco paper, the Boston Globe goes down, or goes bankrupt at any rate, the Chicago papers, it goes on and on and on. But there are a lot of daily newspapers, weekly newspapers that have fallen, and they don't get the national coverage. And that's, you know, right now the Capitol in Annapolis is in bad shape, as are, I'm sure, many other daily newspapers in the state of Maryland.
Sure. Well, I noticed a big difference in radio advertising for real estate companies. That's an area I never did hear much advertising by them.
No, on radio. No,
On radio.
yeah, that's a good point.
I don't, and it may be because there's some companies like Central 21 and Remax, the recent ones, and I thought, gosh, I don't remember hearing them on the radio before.
No.
This may be a new thrust.
Well, they also may be desperate. Let's admit it. Real estate sales aren't exactly a going business at the moment.